My name is Jordan Clark. I'm 38 years old, an architect by trade, a son to two aging but powerful parents who own one of the most respected construction firms in the Midwest, and, as of 3 months ago, a divorced man. That last title still stings, even if I sign the papers myself. I met Rachel when I was 26. She was different from the women I'd dated, bright, fiery, a little impulsive. She had a way of making me feel alive after years of routine and quiet ambition. My parents didn't approve. They thought she was too fast, too uninterested in our family's long legacy. But love doesn't care about legacies. We got married 2 years after meeting. I gave her everything. A modest starter home, which eventually grew into a stunning custom-built property with an open-plan kitchen and wraparound porch she always wanted. She didn't work after year one. Said she wanted to focus on writing, painting, finding herself. I supported her. Financially. Emotionally. Completely. My parents remained skeptical, but quieted down once I proved I could stand on my own. Dad even offered to put Rachel on the Clark Family Trust after we had our daughter, Lila. Said it was a gesture of permanence. Rachel never knew the details of the trust, just that it existed, and that, in time, she might have a part of it too. We lived a good life. Or so I thought. But things started changing about a year ago. Rachel grew distant. Cold. She traveled more, stayed late at art gallery events I never got invited to. Our conversations became robotic. I'd ask about her day. She'd respond with one-word answers. Her laughter was gone. Her phone, always on silent. Always face down. I ignored the signs. Because sometimes it's easier to lie to yourself than face the truth. And because I loved her. Foolishly maybe, but with everything I had. Then came the accident. One rainy Tuesday in February. Rachel's car got rear-ended while she was in a part of town she never mentioned visiting before. The guy who hit her called me when she didn't answer. I arrived before the police. She was fine, just shaken. But her excuse didn't match the location. Said she'd taken a wrong turn from her yoga class. Her yoga class was in the opposite direction. The next day, I checked the car's GPS history, something I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. She'd been visiting a condo building downtown, repeatedly, a unit registered under the name Mitchell L. Mitchell Langston. My stomach twisted. That name, I hadn't heard in years. Not since college. He was Rachel's ex-boyfriend, the one who never amounted to anything, as she used to say. He'd moved to L.A. to find himself in some startup scene, and I thought he was long gone from our lives. I confronted her that night. She didn't even flinch. "Yes, Jordan," she said calmly. "I've been seeing Mitchell again. I don't love you anymore. I haven't for years. I want out." It wasn't a confession. It was a cold announcement, like she'd been waiting to say it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just nodded. Then she said something that chilled me deeper than anything else. "I'll be fair with the split. I'm not after your money. But the trust your parents have? I know how these things work. I know I'm entitled to part of it." I froze. My parents' trust? She had no legal claim to it. Not without surviving the marriage. Not with how the clauses were written. But she thought she had it figured out. "You're going to regret this, Rachel," I said, voice shaking. "No," she whispered, leaning in. "You will." She filed for divorce the next morning. 2 weeks later, she posted photos on Instagram. Her and Mitchell sipping wine in Napa Valley. Matching robes. Sunset backdrops. Smiling like they'd won the lottery. Meanwhile, I was sitting with my lawyer and a forensic accountant, watching every step unfold. She thought I would roll over. That I'd sign whatever papers her lawyer slid across the table. That my silence meant surrender. But I wasn't the same man she married. I had learned the hard way that trust, real trust, is sacred. And now, I was going to show her exactly what it means when you violate it. Because the trust fund she so confidently assumed she'd be entitled to, it had clauses, and I intended to make full use of them. After Rachel filed for divorce and trotted off on her luxury vacation with Mitchell, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat down with my father and told him everything. We weren't exactly close, my dad and I. He was the type to show love through action, not words. Growing up, I spent more time watching him from afar than sitting beside him. But he had built the Clark family business from nothing, turned it into a small empire. And more importantly, he knew how to protect it. When I told him about Rachel's affair and her bold assumption that she'd claim part of the trust, he didn't speak for a full minute. Then he took a deep breath, leaned back in his leather chair, and said, "She has no idea who she's dealing with." I found out that week that the Clark family trust had been amended quietly 2 years ago. A special clause, one I'd never asked for, had been added to cover non-blood spouses in the event of divorce under breach of fidelity. In short, if a spouse was caught committing adultery before the trust was distributed, their eligibility would be automatically void. The clause required evidence, irrefutable proof. Dad had anticipated this. Not Rachel specifically, maybe, but the possibility of someone like her. "I tried to tell you back then," he said, not unkindly. "But you were in love. We'll let you live your way. Now it's time to protect what matters." I hired a private investigator the next morning. While Rachel was tagging wine tours and candlelit dinners with Mitchell, my PI was pulling hotel records, photos, and weeks' worth of digital footprints. Surveillance. Text logs. One image in particular hit me hard. Her in a robe, barefoot, holding Mitchell's face in her hands on the balcony of the condo she said she got lost driving to. She never even tried to hide it. But that arrogance? That would cost her. The day our first court mediation was scheduled, Rachel showed up with Mitchell. I could barely believe it. He had the audacity to walk in like he belonged there, one arm draped over the back of her chair like he was her bodyguard, or worse, her trophy. She didn't look at me. She just smirked. Her lawyer started pushing for a settlement. 50-50 split of all marital assets, a reasonable share of future Clark trust distributions, and spousal support since she sacrificed her career for the marriage. I didn't say a word. Not yet. My attorney slid the evidence across the table. Rachel's face didn't change at first. She looked down at the photos, the timestamps, the hotel logs, page after page of proof. Then she slowly set the file down and reached for her water bottle. Her hands were shaking. Mitchell leaned in and whispered something to her. She flinched. "This evidence," her lawyer started nervously, "it's circumstantial at best. There's no physical. It's more than enough to activate the trust clause." My lawyer cut in, crisp and controlled. She violated her vows. She forfeited any future claim to the Clark estate. Rachel finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but brittle like glass. "You're doing this to punish me." "No," I said calmly. "I'm doing this because you try to play the system, and you underestimated the people who built it." She stormed out of the room before the session ended. Mitchell followed like a lost puppy. But the real blow came later that week. Rachel received a formal lawsuit, breach of pre-divorce fiduciary duty. Turns out, she had withdrawn nearly $38,000 from our joint savings account during the weeks she spent with Mitchell. Funds she claimed were for household purposes. She bought plane tickets, paid for spa retreats, and transferred money directly to Mitchell's business account. She didn't think I'd notice or care, but the court did. The lawsuit demanded she return every cent and included punitive damages. She had also made public comments about our family in a few Instagram posts, suggesting we were old money snobs and legal bullies. Screenshots of those were added to a second suit, defamation. Her vacation had turned into a legal nightmare. I didn't want this war, but I wasn't about to let her rewrite our story while I stayed silent. Then came the real twist. My mother, who had been largely silent through all of this, asked me to come over one night. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a printed email chain, from Rachel, to someone I didn't recognize. The name was Clara H. The subject line? "Mitchell thinks it's love, but this is about the long game." My breath caught. The messages were worse than I imagined. Rachel had planned everything. She wasn't in love with Mitchell. She didn't care about a life with him. She was stringing him along while preparing to leverage our family name, hoping to outlast the divorce and still claim trust fund access. She called it her escape plan and even mentioned looking for lawyers who understood gray areas of infidelity law. Clara, it turned out, was a friend of my mother's. She had quietly forwarded the messages, horrified. Rachel hadn't just betrayed me. She had played us all. And now, with all her cards exposed, she had nothing left to hide behind. But she wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot, because what she did next was something none of us could have predicted. It started with a knock on my door. Late evening, rain coming down hard. I opened it to find Mitchell, drenched, red-eyed, and breathing heavily like he'd just run 10 blocks. I stood there, unmoved, watching the man who helped destroy my marriage now standing on my porch, looking like a broken shell. She used me, he said before I could say a word. She used both of us. I didn't invite him in. I didn't offer him a towel or a seat or a single word of comfort. But I listened. He told me everything. Rachel had promise in the world, said she was done with me, done with the Clark family, and ready to build something real. She convinced him to invest the money she took from our accounts into a sketchy digital business idea he had been nursing for years. It was all lies, he said, shaking. She talked like she loved me. But the moment the lawsuits hit, she disappeared. Told me to fix it. That was my mess now. Turns out Rachel had skipped town. Mitchell didn't even know where she was. He said her phone was off, her social media deleted, and their shared apartment cleared out, except for a note taped to the bathroom mirror. It was fun while it lasted. Just like that, she was gone. But I had a good guess where she might have gone, Florida. Her sister lived in Jacksonville, and Rachel had always said it was her escape plan city. Somewhere warm, anonymous, away from all the noise. I sent a legal inquiry through our attorneys. Days later, confirmation came through. She had moved there temporarily, changed her number, and hired a new lawyer. This one a bit more aggressive, the kind that deals with reputational defense. She wasn't retreating. She was regrouping. Her lawyer filed a motion, a countersuit claiming emotional distress, harassment, and reputational damage stemming from vindictive legal action taken against her after the divorce. It was laughable, but dangerous. She was turning the tables, playing the victim. My legal team assured me it wouldn't hold up, but I wasn't so sure. In today's world, optics matter. If she got the right judge, told the right story, there was always a risk. She was betting on that. Then the media got wind of it. A local tabloid ran a half-baked article. Wealthy architect's ex-wife speaks out, claims she was trapped in loveless marriage to powerful family. It featured an old glamour photo of Rachel, cropped next to a blurry shot of me at a charity event. It was trash, but it spread fast. I kept my head down. I didn't respond. I let my lawyers do the talking in courtrooms and paperwork. But inside, something was changing in me. I was tired of being silent. Tired of being the good guy while she played the narrative. That's when my mother gave me one more gift. A letter. A real one. Handwritten by Rachel. Found among her things after she moved out. It was dated a year before the divorce. In it, Rachel admitted she felt like she had married into a kingdom she could never rule. She said being a Clark was like playing dress-up every day, and that one day she would take what she was owed and disappear into her real life. She had planned the betrayal before she ever packed a suitcase. This wasn't about love, or Mitchell, or freedom. It was about resentment, envy, power. I turned over the letter. I had the handwriting verified and entered into court as part of our legal rebuttal. It crushed the emotional distress claim like a hammer. Her lawyer withdrew the countersuit 2 days later. But the emotional storm she'd started still lingered. Our daughter, Lila, was confused, hurt. She had stayed with me through the entire ordeal, but she was young, only 9, and she missed her mom. I never spoke badly about Rachel to her. I never poisoned that well. But kids know. They see. And she was beginning to ask questions I didn't have the heart to answer. Then one night, she asked me something that broke me inside. Dad, if Mom didn't love you, did she ever love me? I couldn't speak. I just held her, fighting back tears I hadn't allowed myself in months. Rachel hadn't called. Not once. Not even for Lila's birthday. That's when I knew I had to stop letting Rachel be a ghost in our lives. She had taken enough. Her lies, her schemes, her games, they weren't welcome anymore. It was time to end this. All of it. So I made one final move. I contacted Rachel directly, through a mediator. I offered her a single settlement. No further lawsuits. No more digging. No more surprises. But there was a condition. She had to sign a document formally forfeiting any present or future claims to our family estate, trust, or associated business assets. Permanently. No epis. No renegociaciones. In exchange, I would drop the final damages suit against her. She agreed. Maybe because she was cornered. Maybe because she realized the damage was done. Or maybe because, deep down, she finally understood she had burned every bridge she ever stood on. The document was signed in silence. And with it, the last link between Rachel Clark and the family she tried to exploit was gone. Or so I thought. Because what I discovered next, in a dusty corner of my daughter's closet, inside an old stuffed animal she used to carry everywhere, was a voice recorder. And the final message Rachel left for Lila would change everything. The voice recorder was old, beat up around the corners, with one of those tiny buttons that made a loud plastic click when you pressed it. Lila had once used it to record songs when she was little. I hadn't seen it in over a year. She must have rediscovered it while organizing her toys and thought nothing of it, until she accidentally hit play. I heard it while walking past her room. Rachel's voice. "Hey baby girl, it's mommy." My chest tightened. I stopped dead in my tracks. If you're hearing this, I guess I didn't do everything right. I'm sorry for that. I really am. But I want you to know something, Lila. Something nobody else will ever tell you, because they wouldn't understand. She paused. I stepped into the room slowly. Lila sat on the carpet, frozen, staring at the recorder like it was some haunted relic. I didn't stop loving you. Ever. I left because I needed to find myself. And yeah, I made some really dumb choices, but that doesn't mean I stopped being your mom. You were the best part of my life. Even when I messed everything else up, you were my light. I knelt beside Lila and gently turned off the recorder. She didn't look at me. "She still loves me," she whispered. "I know," I said softly, though part of me didn't know what I believed anymore. After everything Rachel had done, I didn't expect this. A secret message, not meant for the courts or tabloids or lawyers. Just for our daughter. A whisper of truth buried under all the wreckage. And that's when something shifted inside me. For months, I've been fighting to protect what was mine, my family, my name, my dignity. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped seeing Rachel as a person. I had turned her into a symbol, a villain, an opponent to defeat in court. But hearing her voice again, it hurt. Not in the way it used to, not with longing or betrayal. It hurt because for one brief moment, I remembered who she used to be. Before the lies, before the cold smiles and legal games. She had once held Lila in her arms and cried tears of joy in the hospital. She had once danced barefoot in our living room while it rained outside. And now she was gone, but not entirely. A few days later, my attorney received a letter, not from Rachel's lawyer, from Rachel herself. Handwritten, no legal jargon, no threats. She apologized, not for everything, but enough. She admitted she had been fueled by resentment, pride, and a sense of entitlement. She admitted using Mitchell to hurt me, and using the trust fund as a way to reclaim control she thought she had lost during the marriage. But she also wrote something else, something that hit like a gut punch. "The truth is, Jordan, I always felt like I didn't belong in your world. I tried, but I always knew I was the outsider. And instead of telling you that, I punished you for it. I punished all of us. Tell Lila I'm sorry I left the way I did. She deserved better. So did you." I stared at those words for hours. I didn't know what to do with them. I wasn't angry anymore. Just empty. A week passed. Then two. Then, out of nowhere, Rachel showed up at Lila's school. She wasn't allowed to take her. That was in the custody ruling. But she didn't try to. She just waited by the gate, waving from a distance. I was already on my way to pick Lila up when I got the call from the school office. By the time I got there, Rachel was gone. But Lila had seen her. She looked sad, she said quietly on the ride home. Not mad, just like she didn't know where to go. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called her. Her voice was tired, not defensive, not guarded, just quiet. "I just wanted to see her," she said, "not to cause problems. I promise." "You shouldn't have done it like that," I replied. "I know." There was a long pause. "Can I see her?" she asked. I didn't answer immediately. I wanted to say no. Part of me still believed she hadn't earned it. But another part, the part that remembered her lullabies, her late-night feedings, her sleepless nights with Lila when she was sick, that part hesitated. "Supervised. Short visit. That's all," I finally said. The silence on the other end told me she was crying. "Thank you," she whispered. The visit happened 2 days later. At a neutral location, a public park, with my mother nearby. Rachel looked different, thinner, older, but her eyes lit up when she saw Lila run toward her. They hugged for nearly 2 full minutes. I stood at a distance, unsure of what I was even feeling anymore. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was something close. She didn't talk about money, or court, or Mitchell. She just listened to Lila talk about school, her friends, her science project. And then Rachel gave her a single gift, a small, secondhand music box with a note inside. "Even when I'm not there, I'm always thinking of you." That was the moment I realized. Rachel wasn't returning to ruin anything. She was already ruined. And this was her way of asking for a second chance. Not with me, with her daughter. But could I let her back in? Could I trust her, even just a little, after everything she had done? I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew the question had changed. Because the war was over. Now came the reckoning. And someone from her past, someone neither of us expected, was about to step forward and reveal a truth that would rewrite the story one more time. 3 days after the park visit, I received an envelope. No return address, just my name written in careful black ink. Inside were 2 photographs, a letter, and something I hadn't seen in years, a wedding ring. Not mine, hers. The photos were old. One was of Rachel, maybe 21, sitting at a kitchen table with a man I didn't recognize. He had kind eyes, dark hair, and his arm casually draped across the back of her chair. The second photo was the same man standing next to a hospital bed, holding a baby. The letter was from him. His name was Daniel Hayes. I don't know if Rachel ever told you about me. I was her first husband. I blinked. My heart stopped for a moment. We were married for 2 years. Before you. Before everything. It wasn't public. It wasn't messy. It just ended. But I think it's time someone told the truth, because Rachel won't. The letter went on to explain things I never knew, couldn't have known. Rachel had married Daniel in secret during college. They had a child together, a son. His name was Nathan, but something went wrong. Nathan was born with a rare genetic disorder and lived only 11 months. The grief wrecked them. Daniel said Rachel changed after that. Closed off. Cold. Eventually, she left him. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she couldn't handle what the world had taken from her. She never told anyone about Nathan. Not even me. The ring she wore when we married was new. There was no trace of that life anywhere. Not in photos, not in documents. She had erased it. Daniel wrote, "I've kept my distance all these years." She asked me to. She wanted a clean slate. But I've watched her fall apart from a distance, and I can't keep pretending anymore. Maybe she hurt you. I don't doubt that. But I wanted you to know she wasn't always like this. Something in her broke, and she's been pretending ever since. I stared at the ring. Dull now, worn around the edges. Not worth much in money, but heavy in weight. I couldn't explain what I felt. It wasn't pity. It wasn't forgiveness. It was something else, like suddenly realizing you'd been reading the second half of a book without ever knowing the beginning. That night, I sat outside under the stars and thought about everything. Rachel had lied, cheated, manipulated. She betrayed our vows and tried to claw something from my family that she was never owed. But she was also human, damaged, and maybe still searching for redemption in all the wrong places. The next morning, I requested a meeting with her, alone. She showed up cautiously, not sure what to expect. She looked worn down, nervous. I handed her the envelope, said nothing, just watched her face as she opened it. She went still, her eyes filled with tears she didn't wipe away. "I didn't think he'd keep that," she whispered. "I asked him to destroy it all. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She laughed bitterly, because I thought if I buried it deep enough, it would stop hurting, but it never did. Silence stretched between us. Then she looked up. "I never stopped missing him," she said. "I thought if I had another life, another family, I could outrun the guilt. But I ended up poisoning everything I touched." Her voice cracked. "I ruined us because I never healed. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm sorry, Jordan. Not just for what I did to you. For all of it." There was nothing else to say. We sat there quietly. 2 broken people. 1 table. Years of wreckage between us. But something unspoken passed between us too. Not a reunion. Not even friendship. Just understanding. I told her one thing before she left. You don't get to rewrite the past, but you do get to choose who you are next. She nodded, clutched the ring, and walked away without asking for anything. That weekend, she called Lila and told her the truth. Not about everything, but enough. That she had made mistakes. That she was sorry. That she wanted to earn back her place, slowly, if Lila would let her. Lila forgave her more easily than I ever could. But that's the way it should be. Kids shouldn't carry their parents' battles. And me? I finally started to breathe again. The lawsuits were over. The noise had died down. The trust fund was secure. My parents, who had silently watched everything unfold, finally told me they were proud. Not because I fought, but because I didn't become someone else in the process. But the story wasn't finished. Because life, real life, never wraps up that neatly. Rachel made one final request. A meeting. Not in a courtroom. Not in a lawyer's office. At Nathan's grave. The cemetery was quiet. No beds. No wind. Just the rustle of dead leaves as I walked the gravel path with Rachel beside me. She didn't say a word. Neither did I. We passed rows of headstones, some old and faded, others newer, adorned with fresh flowers and wind chimes that barely moved. Then we stopped. There it was. A small, flat stone near the base of an oak tree. Nathan Hayes, March 5th, 2012 to February 6th, 2013. Our brightest light. Rachel knelt down and placed the old wedding ring on the grave's edge. Her hands trembled as she did it. She didn't cry, not in the loud, dramatic way she sometimes used to. It was quieter now, heavier. I stood back, uncertain. This wasn't my moment. Not really. But somehow it was. I used to come here every year, she whispered. For a while. Then I stopped. It got too hard. I nodded slowly. Was it hard because you missed him, or because you blamed yourself? Her eyes met mine. Both. She looked thinner than I remembered. Not physically, emotionally. Like life had worn her down until only truth was left. No performances. No rehearsals. I couldn't hold it together after he died, she said quietly. I was 24. I was angry at the world, angry at God. Daniel tried to help, but every time he looked at me, I saw the hospital room again. I saw the tubes, the monitors, the silence. And when I met you, she continued, I thought I had a second chance. But I never told you who I really was. You loved the version of me I let you see, and when the cracks started showing, I didn't ask for help. I lashed out. I sabotaged it. I thought if I controlled the ending, at least I wouldn't have to watch everything fall apart again. I let that sink in. She had spent our entire marriage pretending not to be broken. I spent it pretending not to notice. We were both wrong. Why did you call me here? I asked finally. She took a breath. Because I needed you to see the beginning of my truth. You saw the worst of me in the end. I wanted you to see what came before it. What I buried. Her voice broke on the last word. I don't expect anything. Not your trust. Not your pity. But I needed you to see this, so I could stop lying to myself. The sky darkened above us. Rain in the distance, maybe a storm lingering just beyond the hills. But I didn't move. She stood up slowly, looked me in the eyes. I'm going back to Jacksonville, she said. I found a therapist. I'm not running anymore. I want to fix what I can, even if it's just me. Good, I said. I want to be in Lila's life. As much as she'll let me. She wants you there, but she'll need consistency. You disappear again, she's done. No more chances after that. Rachel nodded. I won't disappear again, she said. And for the first time, I believed her. We stood in silence another moment. I glanced down at Nathan's grave and murmured something I didn't expect to say out loud. I'm sorry I never knew him. Rachel looked at me. I think he would have liked you, she whispered. We left without another word. That fall, Rachel began calling Lila every Thursday evening. She didn't miss a single call. At Christmas, she visited. No drama, no tears, no sudden outbursts. Just quiet effort. Presence. Lila hugged her goodbye without needing to be asked. And me? I found peace, not through vengeance or courts or settlements, but in the simple act of surviving it all with my values intact. I started dating again. Carefully. Honestly. This time, I wasn't trying to fill a void. I was just trying to be whole. One evening, while sitting with Lila on the porch, she asked me, "Do you still hate Mom?" I paused before answering. "No," I said. "I think for a while I hated what she did. And then I hated what it turned me into. But hate, it's heavy. And we've carried enough." She nodded, thoughtful beyond her years. "Do you think she's better now?" "She's trying. And that matters." Lila leaned her head on my shoulder. "You're better now, too," she whispered. I smiled quietly, because she was right. In the end, Rachel didn't get the trust fund. She didn't get the mansion. She didn't get to rewrite history or walk away unscathed. But she did get something she hadn't even known she needed: the chance to tell the truth. And me? I got something better than revenge. I got my life back. The end.